Hey y'all, welcome back to another video. My name's Chad and this is Tabula Rasa Farm. Project for today, compost. And not just any kind of compost. Today, we're gonna make leaf compost. All these leaves here, I got a lawn sweeper back there, you see? All these leaves I collected yesterday throughout the yard and up the driveway and everything. And it's kind of a byproduct of the fall that all the trees start losing all their leaves and everything. And most people just rake them all up and either burn them in a big old pile or put them in lawn bags for the city to pick up if you live in a place that does that. But here on our farm, we like to make compost out of leaves. Now this is our first year doing this. Obviously we just moved here this time last year and didn't have lawn sweeper and all those things. We were kind of just getting settled in last year, but this year I already got a bin working right here. Now the benefits of leaf compost: a regular type of compost that you make, there's a balance between a nitrogen and a carbon. It's usually 30 parts carbon to 1 part nitrogen is about the ratio that you look for, which is what that comes out to basically. And that's as far as like how much nitrogen is in what you're composting. What that roughly comes out to is about 50% green to 50% brown. You can judge your compost by the way it smells. If it has an odor, an ammonia odor coming from it, then there's way too much nitrogen in there and you need to mix some browns in, some carbon, which is either leaves, wood chips, shredded paper, shredded cardboard. Make sure there's no tape or anything on the paper and the cardboard, any plastic and stuff. Just make sure it's just paper and not shiny paper like soda boxes and beer boxes and things like that. You can't compost. So that's if your pile has a smell, you want to add more carbon. Now, if your pile isn't heating up, because the microbes that come up into the reaction between the carbon and the nitrogen will typically force the pile to heat up. It'll raise in temperature. And you're usually shooting for about 140 to 150 degrees. That's the research I've done. Do your own research and find out what for your particular uses, because there's a lot of different temperature ranges that you can go to for different uses for the compost. Leaf compost is all carbon. There is some nitrogen in here because just as I go around with the lawn sweeper and pick up these leaves, it picks up some leftover grass and stuff that's been on the yard. But these piles will also heat up. The one that's back there in the geo bin was, I think it hit 140 degrees the other day. It's cooling back down now. They don't stay hot for as long because there's not a lot in there as far as nitrogen's concerned to keep them warm, but it will break down over time. This is more of a long-term compost. Then the original pile that I've got inside of that geo bin there is just whole leaves. I just raked them all up. I got them with the lawn sweeper, piled them up here, and then I just scooped them all into that bin, sprayed it down every layer. You want to get it wet. It needs to have some moisture in there to break down. So that original pile though is all whole leaf. This pile here, I've got a little push mower down there in the garage that I'm gonna go grab here in a little bit, and we're gonna run it over with the bagger on it and kind of shred the leaves up a little bit to get a little bit of a jump start on the breakdown process and see if they break down and compost any faster than the whole leaves. I feel like they're going to, just because it'll be a lot smaller particles in the compost. That pile there has been going already for about a week, I think. So it's just an experiment to see if this one will catch up to that one and maybe surpass it. So here's one of the geo bins. This is the original compost that we started when we first moved here. We've just been throwing our food scraps and things in this bin and just slowly getting it going over time. And if you follow us on Instagram, I posted pictures of our volunteer tomato plants. This is the bin that they were growing out of, simply out of the compost, because it's a really rich, nutritious compost that we have in this bin. This compost is finished. It's gonna get moved. I'm gonna move it. I've got a pile down here of mushroom compost, which is just composted substrate used for growing mushrooms. It doesn't really have much of a nutritional value to it, but it will add organic matter into our gardens in the spring when we put this stuff down and start working it into the soil. The plan today is we're gonna build a stall bin, or we're gonna build a bin down here out of pallets to move this compost and put that mushroom compost in with it, also kind of get all centralized into one finished pile. And then we're going to use this geo bin when we when we chop up all these leaves here, and we're gonna fill this bin. I'm gonna top off the other bin too. It's already settling quite a bit. All right, y'all, we got our pallets here. This project takes 4 pallets, as you can see right here. I only have 3 kind of stood up on end. We're trying to make a box here. I have another pallet down on the driveway, but there's a bag of grading sand still on it that I'm working on trying to get off of there. So once I get that off, I will be attaching that 4th pallet across the front here to make a box, an open top box. All you need to build one of these compost bins, you don't need to go buy a geo bin like that if you don't want to. You know, you can build these things. They're really fairly inexpensive to do. If you have a good resource to get old used pallets, even better. That means all this material is free. The only other things you're gonna need is, in my case, is a drill driver, and I'm using 2.5-inch deck screws. I've seen these things zip tied together. I've seen them wire tied together. Just get a long piece of, you know, some sort of heavy gauge wire and twist tie them together. If you're gonna plan on opening and closing it a bunch, if you're doing a 3-stall system where you're flipping and turning a lot, I would suggest putting some sort of front on there that's easy to remove. This is meant for long-term storage of finished compost that we're gonna be taking out of the chicken run, and also once the leaf compost that we're gonna make today, once it's finished, it's gonna end up in a stall just like this. I'm probably gonna end up having to build a couple more of these. We're trying to stockpile as much compost as we can here on the farm for the springtime, because as y'all know, we have a really heavy clay soil here, and leaf compost and mushroom compost is probably some of the best things for that soil to increase the porosity of it, make it a little more porous to suck up more water. Also helps leave air pockets in there for the roots to be able to expand out instead of hitting hard wall clay. And another thing too is it feeds the microbes and the worms, so it's an all-around win for everybody. So it only makes sense to make as much as we can. Like I said, what I used to do is pile all my leaves up in a big pile, take a 6-pack of beer out there and burn them. I don't do that anymore because I need compost and I need a lot of it. We're gonna go ahead and get this thing put together here. Like I said, all I'm gonna do is I'm gonna put some screws in the side and just kind of screw it all together so it holds, and then we're gonna fill it. We've got some pile of mushroom compost over here that we're gonna throw in there, and then I'm gonna go get that geo bin full of that finished compost. We're gonna sift it too. I made a compost sifter. I'll do another video on it, how to make one. They're really simple. Actually, I'll probably just show you how I made this one because it's really easy. But I've got some larger pieces of stuff that hasn't quite broke down yet that's still in that pile up there that I want to sift out. I want to leave in there so it continues to break down, so it's not over here with the finished stuff, because there's some big sticks and things that I don't necessarily want in my finished pile. So I'm gonna go screw this together and we'll go start filling it up. All right, well, we got most of it moved. Still got a little bit over there on the pile. I want to go get this other compost up here and throw it in on top of this, and then maybe throw some of that other stuff over here on top of that again, and just kind of layer it a little bit. All right, y'all, we got the lawnmower trailer up here next to this geo bin we're about to empty out. And I was talking about that compost sifter just a few seconds ago, and here's what I made. It's 2 foot by 4 foot. It's just a rectangle. And it's got 1/2-inch hardware cloth on the backside attached with some fence staples. Now you can make one of these any size that you desire, whatever you're sifting your compost into. I made it particularly for this trailer, and I believe it's also big enough to fit over my wheelbarrow, so I got 2 things I can use this one for. I haven't used it yet, so we're gonna test it out today while we go ahead and sift through this compost that's left over here. So I'm gonna put you guys on a time lapse and we'll go ahead and go for it. Oh, one other note, this hardware cloth is galvanized steel. Wear gloves. It will destroy your hands because you got to dump the compost on there and you got to rub your hands over it to kind of break up any chunks and get them to fall through the grate. Make sure you wear a good leather or deerskin type of glove, something that's not gonna tear through. So we'll get you guys on the time lapse we'll sift this compost. All right, y'all, got that compost all sifted up. This is what you get left over with. Really nice, fine compost. It's gonna be great addition to our gardens this spring. So I'm gonna take it down and put it on top of this mushroom compost down here at those little stalls we just built, and then I'm gonna come back and start taking care of some of this stuff. All right, y'all, we got the geo bin set back up here. Got this big pile of leaves here. I got my push mower. My push mower is a battery powered 80 volts electric Greenworks Pro. Like I told y'all, I like Greenworks Pro's products. This mower works great. I use it a lot on the hillsides where I can't get my riding mower. I don't feel like weed eating. Just take this and buzz it down real quick. I'm gonna take this. I got the grass catcher on it, and I'm just gonna kind of run over some of these leaves, chop them up a little bit, and I'm gonna start dumping them into this geo bin here. And I got a garden hose. Put a layer down, we'll get it wet. Put another layer down, get it wet, so on and so forth. I'm gonna run you guys on a time lapse. Probably won't even time lapse the whole thing, but you'll get the idea of what's going on here. So enjoy the time lapse. All right, y'all, we got it filled up here. We got most of the stuff up. That pile that you see over there is it's mostly pine straw, so I'm actually going to take it down and put it on my burn pile and burn it. But we got full geo bin here, and then the one we started before, we went ahead and topped it off. Hopefully in a few months, it's just going to sit over winter out here probably. I ordered another geo bin because I got some more leaves down. I don't know if you can see, but there's a pile down there in the yard. It's a pretty good sized pile, and then there's still more leaves to fall. So went ahead and ordered another geo bin so we could start a third one. Anyway, just another video of just what I was doing today, and I figured I'd bring you guys along. So thanks for hanging out with me today, and we'll see you soon.